Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Louisa. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're coming back, welcome back. For those of you that are interested in where I've been for the last month or so, have a look on the community page. I put a post there with a link to another video, which is on my other channel, so you can check out all our travels and adventures. But in today's video, I wanted to talk about the psychology of cheating, which has kind of come up as a popular topic since the very well-known singer Ariana Grande came out and told people, well, it was publicized that she has started dating someone and they were technically both married when they started dating. There are a few conflicting reports and different sources in the media, so depending on what you read, some people say, oh, they were both single when they started dating. They just happened to meet each other when they were both married. And other people are like, no, they were conducting an affair during the whole time that they knew each other. So we're going to have a look at patterns of behavior and what it is that motivates a lot of people to cheat. So in terms of like celebrity gossip, it's kind of hard to say with any certainty what is going on in these people's lives. We only have certain press releases of what they're up to and things that people glean from social media. It would be completely impossible to diagnose anyone with anything in particular. So what I'm going to be talking about is looking at certain behaviors that we have seen and then comparing it to research from psychology and talking about what it is that prompts a lot of people to cheat, not necessarily these particular people. Since the news broke of this relationship with Ethan Slater, who up until now has only really been a Broadway actor, but he was cast in the new movie adaptation of Wicked, which Ariana Grande is also starring in. So since news broke of their relationship, people have kind of been going through all of the back catalogue of the relationships that Ariana Grande has had over the last 10 years. And they've noticed a particular pattern, and you'll see a lot of videos on YouTube of people going into the ins and outs of her relationship history, and a lot of it is full of overlap. So her most recent relationship was actually a marriage to a man by the name of Dalton Gomez, who is a real estate agent. And there was a social media post from his ex-girlfriend talking about how he's suddenly in a relationship with the person that she was told not to worry about. She was also previously engaged to Pete Davidson, and his ex-girlfriend was only an ex-girlfriend for less than a week before the relationship with Ariana Grande was made public. One of her earliest relationships with Jai Brooks, he came out and claimed that she had cheated on him with two different people who she later got into relationships with. And then there was her relationship with the artist Big Sean, whose fiance at the time seemed to think that he was perhaps having a relationship with Ariana Grande on the side. And then after they split up, Ariana Grande and Big Sean were in a relationship for over a year. So she does have a history of getting into relationships with guys who are already in relationships, or at least laying the groundwork of perhaps emotional infidelity so that it prompts them to perhaps leave their relationship and enter into a relationship with her. And that sort of pattern is pretty typical of someone who suffers from an anxious attachment style, which is very much seen in people who are inclined to cheat. In the case of Ethan Slater, people have become slightly outraged by this particular relationship because he wasn't not just single, but he also has a small child. And this is another pattern that we see in psychology when it comes to cheating, is that men are most likely to cheat when their partner or spouse is either pregnant or has a newborn child. So unfortunately, this is not unusual this is pretty much textbook, the behavior of both of these people, because when it comes to men who are likely to cheat and anxious attachment, with anxious attachment, the person is very preoccupied with getting a lot of feedback and attention from their significant other. And when a woman is pregnant and when she has a newborn baby, she's got a lot on her plate. She's going through enormous physical changes. She's got a lot of medical issues going on. She's not very well. And then when the baby is born, she has a lot to deal with. And she doesn't have a lot of time and attention to spare for her partner. What she needs is support from her partner, and instead what she's got is another overgrown baby who wants all of her attention. Of course, this might not be the case in this particular situation. Plenty of people have relationship breakups when it comes to small children because they put a lot of pressure on the relationship, and if the relationship is not founded on solid ground, if they're already having problems, then having a child really does make or break the relationship. However, this particular couple has been together for a decade. They were high school sweethearts and they got married about 4 years ago. So it seems like the relationship was pretty stable, but until it came to the point when the wife had a child and when the husband was exposed to someone who has a predatory history when it comes to relationships. So what I am not saying is that Ariana Grande is the only person to blame in this situation. She might have a history of predatory attempts on men who are already in relationships, but that doesn't mean that she forces them to be unfaithful. They are willing participants in everything that's going on, and they make a conscious choice to end the other relationships that they are already in. So while she might be love bombing them, she might be manipulating them, she might be giving them all kinds of reasons to be unfaithful, it doesn't mean that they don't have a choice. And it doesn't mean that they aren't responsible for those choices and for the fallout that happens from those choices. It's a pretty serious thing to abandon not just your spouse, but also your child. And for whatever reason, the actor Ethan Slater has decided to do that. So either the relationship that he had with his spouse was absolutely terrible, in which case it makes you wonder why they were together for 10 years, or they were together for 10 years and he was the sole focus of her attention until she had a baby. And it wouldn't surprise me if it is actually the latter, not just because of Ariana Grande's dating history, but because he's theatrical. And people who are in the theater, in show business, in the music industry, movie industry, and on Broadway, all of these people love attention. And part of getting their psychological needs met involves having lots and lots of attention. The other thing that a lot of people have noticed about this new relationship that Ariana Grande has is that he looks disturbingly similar to her brother. That's actually not that uncommon. A lot of people end up in relationships with other people who resemble family. It's to do with just feeling more comfortable around people who are similar. After all, human beings used to live in kinship groups for thousands of years. But the thing that I noticed, which I actually haven't heard anyone talking about it, is the fact that Ariana Grande has a pattern of getting into relationships with men who are either not as professionally successful as her, not as financially successful as her, or not as attractive as her, or all of the above. And granted, it's very difficult in that kind of stratosphere to actually find single people and people that you connect with who are on the same level with you. But at the same time, I don't think it's impossible. A lot of people were absolutely astounded that Pete Davidson, for example, was in a relationship with Ariana Grande, because they don't really see him as a particularly attractive guy. And he's certainly not as professionally successful. Pete himself, in an interview, said that he felt like he had won the lottery when it came to his relationship. Like, even he couldn't believe his good fortune. And that's an interesting dynamic, because a lot of people talk about power imbalances in relationships when it comes to men who have a lot of power and women who don't. But we don't often talk about the reverse, where a woman has a lot of power in the relationship and the man, by contrast, not as much. But there are plenty of people out there who want to have a feeling of being in control of the relationship, of being able to call the shots, of having the power to walk away and feeling like the other person would not abandon them, because, you know, they're never going to do as good in another relationship. So they try to prevent other people cheating on them or leaving them in any way by making sure that they date down. Sort of like reverse hypergamy. And this does fit in with the theory that a lot of what motivates the constant changing of relationships and Ariana Grande's inability to be single for very long, that a lot of what drives this is insecurity within herself and an anxious attachment style. And maybe that's part of how she convinces these guys to cheat on their significant other with her, or to leave them for her, is because she presents herself as an opportunity which is too good to pass up. So let's have a quick look at some of the research on attachment anxiety and cheating. This is a study from Cornell University looking specifically at attachment anxiety and what the underlying mechanism is which actually causes people to cheat. And what they found is that attachment anxiety often leads to the fear of being single, and that is the motivation behind cheating, which of course doesn't excuse cheating, that's just what they found. So they titled the study, "Your Cheating Heart is Just Afraid of Ending Up Alone." The study involved 233 participants, so it was a very large study. And they found that those who have greater attachment anxiety showed increased fear of being single, which in turn predicted greater infidelity behaviors. So let's have a closer look at attachment anxiety and the fear of being single. The attachment behavioral system is argued to function with individual differences stemming from experiences with significant others, which shape later relationships. Usually when they're talking about this, they're talking about parental attachment figures. Specifically, attachment anxiety is characterized with worry about the availability and responsiveness of the attachment figure, hypersensitivity about being abandoned, and preoccupation with closeness. People high on attachment anxiety are chronically afraid that their partners are not going to be available and responsive to them when needed, and they constantly worry about being rejected and abandoned by their partners. Attachment orientation has been shown to predict several critical relationship components, such as relationship quality, commitment, responsiveness, support provision, and conflict resolution. In particular, attachment anxiety has been consistently related to several negative relationship outcomes, such as lower satisfaction and trust, higher perceived conflict, dysfunctional response to conflict, and negative affect. Affect in psychology is the emotional response that you get from someone. Attachment anxiety is characterized with elevated concern about abandonment, which makes individuals constantly seek proximity to their partners and cling to them. Why do people who are so afraid that their partners might leave them engage in more acts of infidelity, which inherently put the relationship at risk? Several studies in attachment literature suggest that attachment anxiety is related to approach tendencies, such as engaging in higher relationship-focused disclosure, desiring more intimacy and commitment, and being more willing to make sacrifices for the relationship. It seems counterintuitive that anxiously attached people who want to be close to their partners would engage in infidelity behaviors that could potentially push their partners furthest away. Here, we reason that these seemingly contradictory findings could be reconciled by investigating another personality tendency that individuals high on attachment anxiety have: fear of being single. Fear of being single is conceptualized as a trait-like individual difference that captures this concern related to being unable to attain or maintain a romantic relationship, ending up alone, and feeling inadequate. Even though fear of being single has been more commonly studied among people who do not have partners, individuals in romantic relationships can also report this state of anxiety as it pertains to the distress of being single in the future. Attachment anxiety can render individuals more likely to experience fear of being single. Early experiences with inconsistent attachment figures, who fulfilled attachment needs at certain times but were unresponsive at others, are theorized to lead to a hyperactivation of the attachment system at subsequent development of attachment anxiety. People high on attachment anxiety have a negative model of self, where they regard themselves as unworthy of love and support. Hence, they constantly fear they are going to be rebuffed or abandoned by relationship partners. This preoccupation with being abandoned by attachment figures may lead to an elevated fear of being single, which is essentially a globalized worry about being left without a relationship partner in life. Indeed, research has shown that attachment anxiety reliably predicts higher levels of fear of being single. All in all, attachment anxiety reflects the general mental representations about relationship partners and how available and responsive they are, whereas fear of being single reflects thoughts and feelings pertaining to a specific relationship status, chiefly driven by the experience of singlehood, such as loneliness and social judgment. Therefore, while investigating relationship dynamics, fear of being single can add a level of specificity not captured by trait attachment anxiety. Indeed, prior research has shown that fear of being single is a distinct psychological construct than attachment anxiety, loading onto separate factors, and that it is a predictor of several relational outcomes, such as settling for unsatisfactory relationships, lowering dating standards, and longing for ex-partners that have been unresponsive, above and beyond the effect of attachment anxiety. It was interesting having a look through Ariana Grande's discography, because she has a number of songs which are interesting. Everyone's been talking about one particular song. I'm gonna get there, but the first one that I actually want to talk about is the single God is a Woman. First of all, blasphemy. Like, as though you can claim to be God. That is next level hubris. But the lyrics in general kind of describe how she's in this relationship with a guy, and because the nookie is so good, she's going to convince him that God is a woman because he's going to have like a spiritual experience. One line reads, "He sees the universe when I'm the company. It's all in me." That has got to be one of the most narcissistic lines I have ever read. But the song that everyone has been talking about is called Break Up With Your Girlfriend, and it's from the album Thank You Next. So the album is named after a track on the album which is also called Thank You Next, where she goes through essentially her back catalogue of relationships and is like, "Thanks guys, it's been awesome. Next!" And it's a really frivolous way to look at previous relationships. Like, I don't know, it's very glib. But the other single, Break Up With Your Girlfriend, is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. "You got me some type of way, ain't used to feeling this way. I do not know what to say, but I know I shouldn't think about it. Took one effing look at your face, now I want to know how you taste, usually don't give it away, but you know I'm out here thinking about it. Then I realized she's right there, and I'm like, damn, this ain't fair. Break up with your girlfriend, yeah, 'cause I'm bored. You can hit it in the morning, yeah, like it's yours. I know it ain't right, but I don't care. Break up with your girlfriend, yeah, 'cause I'm bored. Hit it like it's yours. Is she talking about herself, or is she talking about parts of her own anatomy? Because that's a really unusual way to like distance yourself from your own body. This stuff always happens to me. Gee, I wonder why. Why can't we just play for keeps? Practically on my knees, but I know I shouldn't think about it. Then why are you thinking about it? You know what you're doing to me. You're singing my songs in the streets, yeah, acting all innocent, please, when I know you're out here thinking about it. Then you realized she's right there, and you're at home like, damn, she can't compare. Hold on. Is Ariana saying that other women don't compare to her? Or is she talking about how the kinds of guys that she targets tend to be with people who are perhaps not as attractive as her because she deliberately dates down? I don't know, but it's very interesting. You can say that I'm hating if you want to, but I only hate on her 'cause I want you. Say I'm trippin' if you feel that, but you without me ain't right. You can call me crazy 'cause I want you, and I never effin' met you. That's a really well-constructed sentence. Say I'm trippin' and it ain't right, but you without me ain't nice. She's so good at English. Break up with your girlfriend, yeah, 'cause I'm bored. You can hit it in the morning, yeah, like it's yours. I know, it ain't right, but I don't care. Break up with your girlfriend, yeah, 'cause I'm bored. Okay, so that was the lyrics. The music video is even more interesting. It isn't just a video about Ariana flirting with a guy while his girlfriend is right there, and it doesn't just portray her literally inserting herself between them. No, that's not disturbing enough for this music video. It has all of those elements, but it also has this twisted storyline of Ariana assuming the identity of the girlfriend, starting with appropriating her style and befriending the girlfriend. So in the video, she befriends the couple and gets invited to their house party, where she turns up looking identical to the girlfriend. This surprises and disturbs the girlfriend. Even the boyfriend finds it a little weird. She then follows the couple through the house almost like she's stalking them, and eventually her tactics pay off. Some of the comments I've seen about this music video is that it has aged like milk, and one comment was, break up with your family 'cause I'm bored. I would love to know what is going on with Ariana Grande and her sense of identity, because I reckon there's something there. Like, a lot of people have accused Ariana Grande of trying to become other races. So she's Italian descent, American, and she has kind of presented herself in a very Latina way. So a lot of people at first presumed she was Latina, and then they found out, no, she's actually Italian. So there was some confusion about that. And then for a while there, she was getting extra dark spray tans, and some people accused her of blackfishing. And then more recently, she came out with some photos where she's kind of portraying herself as Korean or East Asian. And people are like, okay, is this a new racial identity that she's appropriating? And again, this goes back to theatre types. I have worked in the theatre on an amateur level, and it's very interesting, the sorts of people that you meet there. It's a lot of fun to play around with different characters and different styles and things like that. But there are some people who genuinely don't know who they are, and they don't just like temporarily pretend to be a character. They kind of adopt a fake persona, and the fake persona shifts and changes depending on like their interests or popularity or the people that they're dating. But their sense of self is not very strong. It's not very clear. And so they suffer a lot from identity confusion. And again, I have no idea if this applies to Ariana Grande or not. It's just an interesting observation. So the other reason why I found that video clip very interesting is because of the reports from Ethan Slater's now ex-wife, Lily J. So she claimed that during the filming of Wicked, she would actually hang out with Ariana Grande and her husband. So it was almost like she became a part of their family group when they were on set. And again, it's kind of similar to the music video where she befriends the partner of the person that she's targeting and then like slides right in there. This article in Elle magazine titled "Ethan Slater's Estranged Wife Lily J Breaks Silence on His Ariana Grande Romance" says, "Ariana's the story really, not a girl's girl," Jay said. "My family is just collateral damage." She added that her focus is on raising her child, whom she welcomed with Slater in August 2022, and being a good mum. So essentially, their child is only just turning 1 now. The story is her and Dalton Gomez, Grande's estranged husband, Jay added. Jay did not give any details beyond that. She additionally told Daily Mail, "I am focused on rebuilding a life for our son and rebuilding a life for him. That is what I am trying to do, and that is my only focus." A source close to Jay spoke to Daily Mail about how she, Slater, and Grande hung out together so many times in London. That source alleged that after an April set visit, Jay discovered Slater and Grande had been having an affair. The source said that initially, Jay, Slater, Grande, and Gomez were going to move past it and stay in their own relationships. The source close to Jay claimed Slater blindsided her by filing for divorce Wednesday, and it was his decision, not hers. The source added that Jay sees no hope for reconciliation and intends to raise their child as a single mother. "What this has done to her family is absolutely disgusting," the source said. Neither Slater nor Grande have commented on their relationship since reports of them dating broke last week. Other sources told Page 6 that Jay had been calling every news outlet to get the story out. While Jay was not explicitly identified as any outlet source until now, insiders did discuss her perspective and devastation to Entertainment Tonight, People, Us Weekly, and TMZ. And this fits in a lot with attachment anxiety, because attachment anxiety usually develops because of parental relationships. And when someone is anxiously attached, what they're essentially trying to get is a relationship with the parental figure that represents that particular gender. So, for example, in straight people, a woman will go for a father figure, and men will go for a mother figure. In gay relationships, it could be, actually, it's really hard to tell because the lines between gender is kind of a bit blurred. So it's much easier to see and it's much easier to explain in heterosexual relationships. And so, for example, Ariana Grande, she had an estranged relationship with her father. So he left the family home when she was 8 years old, and she didn't see him or speak to him for 18 years. Reports came out in 2019 that Ariana Grande had reunited with her father after an 18-year-long feud. Ariana Grande is extremely close to her family, especially her mother, Joan Grande. But her father, Edward Butera, has been absent from her life since her career kick-started. Essentially, Ariana Grande rejected her own last name because of the feud between their parents, and she adopted her mother's maiden name. But since then, they have apparently made peace. It's a big step for the Grandes, who have faced their struggles in the past. In Ariana's song Thank You Next, she detailed some of what went wrong between her and her father. One day I'll walk down the aisle, holding hands with my mama. I'll be thanking my dad, 'cause she grew from the drama. Only want to do it once, real bad. Gon' make that stuff last. God forbid something happens, least this song is a smash. She's real humble. In 2014, the 26-year-old explained to 17 that she and her father had a strained relationship for a long time. It's private, but it happened last year. It took me so long to be okay with it. The thing that got me there was embracing the fact that I am made up of half my dad, and a lot of my traits come from him. So much of me comes from my father, and for so long I didn't like that about myself. I had to accept that it's okay not to get along with somebody and still love them. Children with difficult parents can experience an awful lot of self-loathing because of how much they actually have in common with that parent whose behavior they see as wrong and bad. And they see that wrongness and badness as part of themselves. So what normally happens in raising a child when you have both parents, both biological parents in the home, is the child goes through this phase, usually around pre-pubescent period, like, ages 10 to 12, where they sort of see the same-sex parent as like competition. And they view the opposite gender parent as like the one that they need to get the attention of, the one that they need to please, the one that they need validation from. And if they don't have that to kind of work through these issues, then they will play that out later on in life with other people. So people will be more attracted to someone who is already in a relationship because they essentially get to do that thing that they couldn't work through with their own parents. They couldn't get to a resolution where they actually got validation from the opposite gender parent and they stopped seeing the same-sex parent as competition. So the goal of this process is to not see your mum as the enemy, to not see your dad as the enemy, and to not constantly be at war with them in an effort to get attention from the other parent. So when a kid hasn't been through that, when they haven't gotten to the end goal of that, or if it got messed up somehow, then they will see people of the same gender or the same sex as competition, and they will see them as enemies, and they will see people of the opposite gender as the person that they need validation from. And because this person is essentially operating from a very juvenile emotional state, a very infantile mental capacity for relationships, they don't really see the collateral damage that they are inflicting on other people as wrong. They think that it's perfectly valid for them to ruin other people's lives because they're getting what they need. And the thing about all of their relationships is that they're not going to last because they're always going to be seeking that attention. They're always going to be seeking that validation. And there is no partner who can ever really fulfill that role for them. Especially because the types of people that they usually end up with are extremely self-centered and immature themselves because they engaged in cheating in order to be in that relationship. So it's always doomed to fail, and it's always doomed to repeat itself. They're constantly on the search for the next person who is going to fulfill that role, and they're looking for it in all the wrong places. So they're never really going to find a securely attached relationship because the relationship is based on insecurity in the first place. When a relationship starts out by cheating, then the two people can never really trust each other. Not implicitly, not to the degree that you need to be able to trust someone in a lifelong committed partnership. So while she might enjoy the conquest in the early phases, eventually she's going to get bored again, and then she's going to target someone else. And he's so currently bamboozled by her fame and her beauty and her money that he has no idea what he has sacrificed. He has no idea what he has lost in the pursuit of this mirage. And eventually it's probably going to be a massive wake-up call, if he ever really wakes up to himself. But a lot of people just continue to live in denial, and it's interesting how people process these sorts of breakups when they eventually happen, because there's a lot of guys who, if they're not wise enough, they're like, well, this is the sort of girl that I can get, so that's what I'm going to pursue from now on. And then they just have a string of, I guess, user girlfriends for years and years, and they end up feeling hollow and empty and depressed. And meanwhile, he has a son that grows up without an attachment figure, and the cycle repeats itself. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully that was interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'm curious to see what you make of this one. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.